people. We are starting our biochemistry unit, and we're going to start with what is probably the most important molecule to living organisms, the molecule of water. Water has some very important properties that living organisms use on a daily basis to maintain homeostasis and just to stay alive. What is water? Okay, so water is a small molecule. It is made of 3 atoms, 2 hydrogen atoms, and 1 oxygen atom. If we remember from the periodic table, oxygen has 8 electrons, 2 on the inner shell and 6 in the valence shell. Hydrogen has 1 electron in its valence shell. So we all know the magic number for a happy atom is to have 8 electrons in that valence shell. So what happens here is the electrons from the hydrogens are pulled toward the oxygen that already has 6 and is more electronegative or more attractive to those electrons than the hydrogens are. And this creates a bond between the hydrogen and the oxygen that's very strong. It's a covalent bond because they're sharing these electrons. But the second thing that does is creates areas of polarity. So our hydrogen end becomes positive because that electron is spending its time around that oxygen. So this end of the molecule has a positive charge to it, and this part of the molecule has a negative charge to it. So this is our polarity, and the polarity is going to be important for some of the other properties that water has. Hydrogen bonding occurs between water molecules. So if you look at this diagram, we've got a water molecule here, and a water molecule here, another one over here. So inside that water molecule, you have these strong covalent bonds between the hydrogen and the oxygen. But because we have the positive charge of the hydrogen and the negative charge of the oxygen in the next molecule, this hydrogen is actually attracted to this oxygen. And that attraction, it forms a hydrogen bond between these molecules, and that allows the molecules to sort of stick together and hold on to each other to create cohesion and adhesion. So when we look at some of the properties that are related to this polarity, we have to look at the ability of water to dissolve other substances. We call water the universal solvent because it will pretty much dissolve any other ionic or polar substance, including minerals and nutrients. So anything that is ionic or polar is going to be able to be dissolved in water given enough time. Non-polar substances will not dissolve in water. So things like oil will not dissolve in water. They actually repel each other. The chemical properties of hydrophilic and hydrophobic interact and don't allow water to dissolve the oil. The ability of a substance to dissolve something, we call that a solvent. The item that's getting dissolved is a solute. So the solvent does the dissolving of the solute. When you put the two of them together, you get a solution, which is a mixture of the substances that's homogeneous. And that means that the molecules are spread evenly throughout the solution. So here you see that we dissolved the solute into the solvent, and those molecules are evenly spread throughout. For an ionic substance like salt, salt is made out of sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is made of sodium ions and chloride ions. So sodium is a positive ion and chloride is a negative ion, and they are actually attracted to the water molecules. The water molecules are attracted to the positive charge attracts the oxygen end of the molecule, and the negative charge attracts the hydrogen end of the molecule. And these molecules will, when they're dissolving the salt, will actually stick to the chloride and the sodium ions throughout that dissolving process. Hydrogen bonding also allows water to show cohesion, surface tension, and adhesion. Cohesion is when the water molecules are strongly attracted to one another. They allows the water to form sort of a spherical shape. If it were floating in a weightless environment, water would actually form a sphere. We see water drops as pointed because literally they're falling, so they get pulled. But if you could float water out in space, when you see the astronauts out in the space station, the water literally is in spheres floating in the air because there's no gravity. Cohesion allows us to pile water on top of itself. It will stick to itself and create this bump on this penny. And you can get, I've had kids get up to 30 or 40 drops of water on one penny before they break the surface tension. And the surface tension is created by this cohesion. So the cohesiveness of these molecules is going to allow the molecules to stick together, and it creates a surface tension over here, but it also creates a surface tension on the surface of any water. So you would have basically the ability to walk on this water if you were small enough and light enough, like this spider. Water striders are another bug that are able to walk, and they're literally called water striders because they stride across the surface of the water to get from place to place. Adhesion is the other property, and adhesion, the water molecules are attracted to other charged particles. So cohesion allows water to stick to itself. Adhesion allows it to stick to other things. So if you remember that adhesives are things like tape that stick to other things, adhesion is the water sticking to something else. If you look here, this is what we call a meniscus. So this is a graduated cylinder, and this is the water inside the graduated cylinder. You can see here that the water has climbed up the sides of the graduated cylinder here. When you measure water in a cylinder, you have to look at the curve at the bottom here, because that's the lowest point is the actual good measurement. This curve is created by the adhesion of the water to the glass of the graduated cylinder. And so if you read it there, you're actually getting an inaccurate measurement. You always want to measure from the bottom of that curve to get the best measurement. So this would be at 20 milliliters. In a plant, adhesion and cohesion are really important because they allow water to move up inside a plant from the roots up to the leaves. So the water enters the roots, and then it follows through the xylem cells. It will travel up the plant using adhesion to the sides of the cell and cohesion to other molecules. So literally the water molecules kind of climb over each other and climb up the xylem tubes until about 30 feet. They can climb about 30 feet high without much help. And then if the tree is taller than that, it relies more on the leaves to help pull that water up with what we call the transpirational pull. When water evaporates from the leaves, it creates a little vacuum behind it that pulls the water up through the xylem cells. Since all of this water is essentially touching and connected, that cohesion helps pull that water up to the top of the plant. Without adhesion and cohesion, we would not have very tall plants because we would not be able to get the water to the top of the plants. So forget that oak tree in your front yard. Water also acts as a thermal regulator, so it actually helps to maintain temperature in your body. It has, and actually in the environment as well. As far as living organisms go, your body uses water to help warm you up and cool you down. So the high specific heat of water means that it takes a lot of energy to raise the temperature of water 1 degree Celsius per gram. And then it takes a lot of time for the water to lose that energy. So if you've ever looked at water boiling on the stove, it takes a while for that water to boil. And then if you just left the pot there on the stove, it would take a while for that water to cool off too. Water is going to absorb the heat energy produced in chemical reactions as well. So in your body, all that metabolism you do, all the cellular respiration, all the activity that you do creates excess heat as a byproduct. And the water in your body, and your body is about 73% water, all that water is going to help absorb that excess heat and maintain your body temperature. When you get too hot, your brain tells your body to sweat. So if your body is too hot, your skin will start to sweat. The sweat on your skin will evaporate, and that process of evaporation will help pull heat out of your body and lower your body temperature. When you are cold, your brain sends signals to your body to contract blood vessels and keep that water inside your body to help maintain the heat that you do have. So water overall is very important to the homeostasis of living organisms. And homeostasis is the ability of your body to maintain a stable internal environment. So if we did not rely or have these properties of water to rely on, we would have a really hard time maintaining our internal body temperature of 37 degrees Celsius and interact with our environment. High specific heat also works in the environment too, because lakes and oceans hold a lot of temperature. They hold a lot of heat. So as it takes a long time for that water in the summer to heat up, but once it does, it takes a long time for it to cool down too. So it helps to maintain a sort of average temperature on the planet. So I said before that your body is about 73% water. So is the planet. If this planet did not have as much ocean as it does, it would not be nearly as hospitable as it is to all of us. So we should probably take better care of it. All right, so that's it for water. We'll see you next time for macromolecules.